What's good, everyone? Everybody. Mike Lang, the Chief Innovation Program Officer at edX, and we're back one more time. It's kind of fooling around, and interesting news. Oakland Athletics are going to be moving to Las Vegas, which is interesting, as I said previously. um, but they're going to need a place to play, right? How could that be a problem that our learners solve? And that's kind of something I've been thinking about for the last 3 or 4 months. And I've got a idea I'm going to throw into the world that you might also be interested in. That's also going to push us to think about systems. So first, that concept of, is there a schema, a protocol that's going to allow us to um, lead learners through a process that allows them to be solution finders in most situations, rather than uh, you know, creating barriers between systems. In English we think like this, in math we think like this, in science we think like this. How can we create a schema or utilize a schema in our classrooms that allows students to be solution finders regardless of what class they happen to be in? And we're going to use a design thinking protocol in order to do that. Also, machine learning, right? Huge idea. This is going to be impacting the world very deeply right now. It is only going to do impact the world more deeply as we go forward. How are we integrating those ideas, concepts, and experiences with the tools with our learners to get them to a place where they utilize the tools collaboratively to get work done? And before you get into the, oh my goodness, machine learning, AI, it's scary. Sure. I mean, instruments are agnostic. So are some people going to do things that they shouldn't do with AI and machine learning? Absolutely, positively. Are some people going to do great things that help and benefit people? Absolutely, positively. So the more that we get, start to have those conversations with the students and start to have students have experiences with the tools, the more we can attempt to ensure that they use these tools for good and not for evil. The other deal is, the reason why we need to make sure the machine learning and AI concepts are in class is because you, as the teacher, are going to benefit from it. Like video games, um, it gives the user immediate feedback as to, hey, this might be a path I want to pursue, or this is, these are the issues with the paths that I'm pursuing. How can you customize and create for me in the moment? I can evaluate those things and ask further questions in order to develop what I really need. How can I have a situation where I can keep all of the prompts and ideas that I'm collaborating with the machine with in a nice space so that I can go back and refer to those, and I don't have to involve the teacher or another student in doing that. So I can work at my own pace in a more authentic and more genuine way. As the teacher, I can have being sent to me. Hey, these are ideas that I'm kind of kicking around right now. Um, uh, and what do you think of these, without having to go and take 55 million papers home with you every day, without having to deal with the issue of you just didn't have time to those 55,000 papers. You didn't have time to actually grade and review those. How can we create a process that's more efficient and better in the long run for everybody? And so we're going to take the idea of building or designing a stadium for the Oakland Athletics in Las Vegas. We're going to take that particular idea and we're going to run with it during this time that we have together today. So this is a protocol or idea or lesson concept that you can run with in your own class. It's getting toward the end of the school year in Las Vegas. It might be an opportunity for you to have your learners kind of just start to to dream about that, and then also share. We're going to be putting that together, hopefully in the next couple of days. A nice project for you that you can share out to the current Oakland Athletics, the future Las Vegas Athletics. I'm assuming they're going to keep the name. Um, as These are the things that I think that young people or people in your students in your class are going to feel are important, that are baked into the fabric of the stadium. All right, and just kind of before we get started, some ideas, um, some things to know first and foremost. So the purportedly the stadium will seat 35,000 people. It will cost upwards of $1 billion, up to $1.5 billion. The site has already been purchased, which is interesting because that's something else we can kind of look at. And as we do at the beginning of all of these processes and stuff, we want to have a scenario in which we have kids start to think about um, the big idea is, hey, what should that stadium look like? But also, what are other questions and research concepts that we might want to consider? And so let's get started. I'm going to start with that idea first. So, all right, we're actually not going to start there. We're going to start here. And so you have, if you're a Clark County School District teacher or somebody who has Google Access, you have Google Keep. And Google Keep, I erased all my notes just so it'd be fresh and looking like yours. Probably it is if you don't utilize this tool. It's a great place for just basic creating of questions. It's a place that I often took the students because these questions can be then sent to Google Docs pretty easily. And so let's go ahead and take a note, and let's call this note um, questions about stadiums, because we don't want to assume that students even know what stadiums are, right? Stadiums, soccer stadiums are different from football stadiums, which are American football stadiums, which are different from baseball stadiums, which are different from stadiums that may be used for high school sports or collegiate sports, right? Those things are all different. So the first idea here: what kind of concepts, what kind of questions could we ask ourselves about what a stadium is, and kind of get those all written down so we have those kind of as a part of our focus. So one of the questions we might ask, and before we do this, click the three dots. And I always like to create the show check boxes just so that I have like this visual check on what's going on. So say what are unique characteristics of stadiums in the world? What are the most unique? That's a question I would want to know. Um, what kinds of food would you serve stadium? What inspires the architects when they decide to build a stadium? What are characteristics most stadiums share? Let's keep it to that. Now, you would do a session like this with your students. Everybody has their Google Keep. All questions are valid at this point. Like, should dogs be allowed there? What kinds of accessibility features are included in stadiums? How many bathrooms would just questions? Just as I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, these questions I would probably ask as well, right? So you got those. We'll click out. You see that it gives us this very nice list. And the reason why I like the check boxes is as I ask those questions or I find the answers to those questions, I can just check them off. All right. I can also add a collaborator. So I can collaborate in a group. You know, you want a bunch of kids to create one list. You want all the kids to create one list. Great. If you have kids working in groups of 3 or 4 or whatever, you got that deal there. And also change the background. So if I want to, put some cool stuff behind there, music, etc., whatever. I don't want anything behind it. All right. I can also archive it. I'm going to undo the archive because I want to keep it. So I can archive them, and then you can add labels to them. So stadium project. All right, cool. So when I need to go back and find, if I make other notes about the stadium project, all those will be housed under stadium project. I can hide the check boxes, make a copy, and that bottom one, that copy to Google Docs, is if you're going to have kids, think in a different space, comment on a Google Doc or whatever, I can have those questions sent to Google Docs. All right, cool. So this is where your kids will do research and whatnot. What are very interesting, how can we go find the answers to these questions? Um, Generally, we would do that research in Google and stuff, but we don't have to do that anymore. And we can really cut the time necessary to research, improve, and create prototypes in our classrooms with machine learning. Now, that being the case, we are not going to treat everything that the AI/machine learning tells us as truth. We are going to check it to ensure that it is true. So, okay, it gives us an answer. We're going to go and evaluate the answer for veracity and say, okay, cool, this is good. We can go and proceed to the next step with the tool. We're not going to go and just believe everything that it says. That's something very, very important for us to get our students to understand that just because it sounds true or it sounds reasonable, we need to go and prove the veracity of the claims that it's making. Now I'm going to share with you a tool. Forefront is the tool I would use with students just because ChatGPT is embedded inside of it, so we don't have to worry about that. If you have a ChatGPT account, you know that you need a phone number, and to me, it's kind of invasive. So this allows us to do that without having to deal with it. The thing I like about Forefront is it has personas built into it. And you're going to see what I mean about that in just a second. And it will allow us to build the artwork for our stadium in the same tool. I don't have to go to Stable Diffusion or Midjourney or Pixlr and everything else, even though those tools are very, very cool to use. All right. So Forefront is dope because all I need is a Google email address to be able to authenticate myself through Google. So I'm gonna hit that login button, or you're gonna hit the sign up button or whatever. Either way, continue with Google is the wonderful thing. I'm gonna click that, and bada bing, we're in. All right, cool. Now, the thing I like about this is these personas. And so each of the personas has a given specialty, if you think about what the person is, right? So if I'm talking about Salvador Dali, I might want to deal with Salvador Dali when I'm thinking about what? Art. I have an art project I want to do. Let's get down. If I'm dealing with Bill Gates, if I'm talking about perhaps some coding or ideas with computers, that might be the deal that we get down with. All right, I got Kim Possible. Again, if I'm talking about somebody who's super edgy, innovative, problem solving, etc., Kim Possible might be somebody I deal with. Spider-Man. I'm talking about heroic and a genius and someone who has a lot of heart. All right. I got Groot there. You've got all these really, really cool people that your kids can talk to that's going to allow that conversation to be a little bit more personable and also to have the expertise kind of narrowed. All right. I am a big Star Wars fan, so I'm going to use Yoda, despite the fact that he may not be the best person at this deal. I like him because he talks like Yoda, which is cool. All right. Now, we have our questions here. And I'm just going to ask those the questions. So, what are the most unique characteristics of states in the world? Just wrote a sentence. And he's talking as if Yoda. So, unique features in stadiums, you ask. Many there are, but few stand out. In Japan, the Sapporo Dome has a retractable roof that can switch from grass to turf in just an hour. In Singapore, the National Stadium has a retractable dome that can be opened or closed in just 20 minutes. In the United States, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta has a 360-degree halo video board that is the largest in the world. Remember, young one, it's not the features that make a stadium great, but the passion and spirits of the fans who will fill it. Do or do not, there is no try. Very interesting. Now, can we go through? We are given very specific examples. Can we Google those specific examples to ensure that it's correct? Absolutely. So let's go and say the Mercedes-Benz Dome. All right, cool. Let's say what the actual website says. First of its kind in professional sports. Our centerpiece, the first of its kind in professional sports, will give you a 63,000 square feet of 360-degree HD video screen to view live action highlights and ISO cameras. Seems that that's pretty correct. All right, dope. Could we look and evaluate those other two things? Absolutely. For time purposes, we're not going to do it. So, okay, cool. Those are some unique ideas. Let's pretend that we went through each of those questions, as your learners will do. The other thing that's interesting about this is that this entire chat is saved. So I can go back and forth as I'm asking you the questions, or Batman, or whoever else you choose. All right, so I've got those questions done. Say we did the research and we're like, hey, great, great, fine, dandy is another question I'm going to ask very quickly. How might we mitigate the environmental impact of a stadium, of a, let's say, baseball stadium? Let's be very specific. Let's see what the ideas they have. Energy efficient, use renewable energy sources such as solar panels and wind turbines to power the stadiums. We can use energy efficient lighting and HVAC systems to reduce energy consumption. We can implement water conservation methods such as using low flow toilets and faucets and installing rainwater harvesting systems to collect and reuse water. You can use sustainable materials in the construction of the stadium, such as recycled steel and concrete, and use locally sourced materials to reduce transportation emissions. Fourth, we can encourage fans to use public transportation or carpool to the stadium and provide bike racks and other amenities to encourage alternative modes of transportation. Fifth, we can implement waste reduction and recycling programs such as composting food waste and recycling plastic tubes and other materials. Remember, young one, the force is strong with those who care for the environment. May the force be with you. Now, those are not ideas that I would have thought of off the top of my head. I had a question in collaboration with the chat, or with the chat GPT 3.5 in this particular sense. It gave me ideas that again my brain would not have gone to those particular places. So now we have things we can add to our presentation ideas, stadium concept, whatever we're dealing with. Great. Again, that stays in this chat and this conversation I'm having with it. This is another benefit to this particular tool. So, got that. Great analysis work. We would have looked at different stadiums. We got some environmental impact studies. Wonderful. Um, so, second stage after empathy is analysis. We've kind of got some analysis here. We've kind of looked all over the internet and stuff. I want a stadium that's going to have a small environmental footprint. The other question I'm going to ask him before we go to the next step is which accessibility features should be included in a stadium, excuse me. And, let's see what he says. Wheelchair seating, accessibility seating throughout the stadium, clear sight lines, accessible parking spaces, assistive listening devices, and closed captioning for fans who are deaf or hard of hearing. accessible bathrooms, accessible routes throughout the stadium, train staff to help everybody else. One, bada bing. I got that all there. It saves me a bunch of time. I just had to ask the right questions to get the right answers, right? So prompt engineering is what we're doing right now. I am asking the right questions because the answers that I'm searching for are given to me. It's no different really from Google. All right. I ask a question, I go and Google search it, and I find websites. We're just cutting out the find the website part. All right. It's nothing like, oh my goodness, this is magic. No, this is fundamentally taking the intermediary position between myself and the search engine. It's just removing the search engine as a necessity. All right, great. So we have those questions kind of dealt with. Now, what kind of dreams could we have in terms of what the stadium looks like? Kind of ideas could we ensure are available for the stadium? And here's where we can go in that daydream sense. We're going to give students some carte blanche to kind of start to think about stuff. And so, what first thing I'm going to think about is how can the local flora and fauna of Southern Nevada be uh, incorporated into the stadium? So, which flora and fauna, and that's plants and animals in Southern Nevada to as inspiration for a new baseball stadium in Las Vegas. Let's see what Yoda says. All right, so Joshua Tree. All right, cool. It could inspire the design of stadiums architecture with sharp angles and unique shapes. Interest. Another plant that can inspire the design is the creosote bush, a hardy and resilient species that is common in the desert. Creosote bush could inspire the use of sustainable and durable materials in the construction of the stadium, such as recycled steel and concrete. As for fauna, the desert tortoise, great. Hmm. Let's go and let's ask a deeper question. Are there any other animals that might inspire construction, by the design, say the design of the baseball stadium in Las Vegas? They're going sheep, desert hawk, small animals, desert stork. So we've got all these ideas now that we can start to play around with. So we got okay, animals and plants that could inspire what the stadium looks like. All right, cool. What about who are famous native Nevadans that could commemorated, commemorated or honored by the baseball stadium in Las Vegas? So, Native Nevadans, I'm talking about the Native Americans that happen to be here before. So let's see what chat comes up with. Yeah. So we got Sarah Winnemucca. So if you did your fourth grade in Las Vegas or in Nevada, you learned about Sarah Winnemucca, Wavoka, and John Social Thompson, Sarah James. All right, great. So those are four Native Americans that we might say they need to have some kind of maybe murals or memorials to them or their tribes, integrated into the stadium. What about who are Native? Uh, who are people? Let's say who are baseball players with ties to Las Vegas that might be honored by the stadium, new stadium, new baseball stadium in Las Vegas. Again, I'm just like spitballing, and we're having this conversation back and forth. So Bryce Harper, Greg Maddux, Chris Bryant, Arvada. See, so Arvada, Colorado is not just outside of Las Vegas. So those three definitely ones I agree with. Roy Halladay, even though he's a great baseball player, nah. But to give these ideas, what kind of inspirational kind of concepts we're gonna have with our stadium. So we got all right, cool. Any other questions I can think of at the top of my head in terms of this dope stuff we could do? And daydreaming, I mean, again, no question is too insane at this point. So we've got plants and animals that inspire. Oh, architects. Who are architects from Nevada whose style could inspire the construction of new baseball? Let's see. All right, Frank Gehry. Paul Beer Williams is very famous here. Hugh Taylor. Now, this is where we're going to kind of use our noodle here. Again, this is spitting back the information that I want, but as the prompt engineer, I need to be able to notice patterns. So if you notice here, these are all males. Are there any female architects from Las Vegas, from Nevada, that could inspire our design? So again, I am still very important in this process. If I don't ask it questions that are going to prompt the answers from a equity standpoint, from a utility standpoint, and from an efficiency standpoint, this doesn't really do me that good. I have to be in control and understand. Okay, here's the output that it's putting out. How can I get more information that's going to ensure that the product that I build is as equitable and as dynamic to be true of what it could be. All right, so that's cool. Cool. We got some women there. Excellent. What about are there Asian American? Let's capitalize Asian architects we might consider. All right, cool. So we have some Asian. What about all right. Now, so I'm kind of hitting my bases and stuff. I want to have as much information as possible before we make recommendations and ideas. All right, so there's tons of stuff here. Paul R. Williams, Revere Williams, he's an African American, but it is what it is. All right, Latin descent. Maybe I could have been a lot more clear. Mexican Americans, Honduran Americans, etc. Because they pulled in Paul Revere Williams again, and then Victor Grun. It says he's born in Austria, which is not a place of Latin descent, right? So we can go back and we can like tweak those. Let's do one more. from Nevada that are members of the LGBTQ community from designs. All right, so we've got lots of constituencies. We could go, very niche and nuanced, but we got lots of constituencies here, right? So it's really cool. I've got uh, tons of architects that we can, whose styles we can appreciate. We've got some animals and some plants that can give some appreciation there as well. Um, Even though the location of the stadium is pretty much decided, what, where might we place a stadium? All right, so let's engineer a question. Where could we place? Where can we build a stadium, a new baseball stadium in Las Vegas, which would have the smallest environmental impact? So, displace the least amount of people, create an economic boost for communities of color, and have the most equitable travel time for residents. Let's see what it does with that question. All right. So give us some ideas about where we might want to place it. We can then go and take this and evaluate the current site where the stadium is being proposed and say, does it meet these criteria? If it does, then great. If it doesn't, then problematic. Um, the site is right off the strip, right next to the Raider Stadium. I don't know all the details about, who's it displacing or impacting or anything like that, but it'd be very interesting to use that criteria to apply to the current plan. So we've got all that stuff there. Great. So we've got some ideas here. And I'm going to go back through here and build my prototype. And again, I'm doing it super fast. Could take you a couple hours to doing this in like 45 minutes. And so I think the desert tortoise is a great symbol of Southern Nevada. All right. So I want a stadium that its inspiration from the desert tortoise. I think that's cool. Now, I think the other cool thing is honoring Sarah Winnemucca, just because I started as a fourth grade teacher in Las Vegas, and she was one of the um, uh, first people that I was really introduced with that was Nevada specific. So Sarah Winnemucca, taking some inspiration from her might be dope. All right. The baseball players I'm not going to really fool with. But Paul Revere Williams is, recently had a pretty big conversations or big to do with Paul Revere Williams' his impact in Nevada in terms of architecture. So let's go and take some inspiration from Paul Revere Williams as well. And I got one more question. All right, let's see. Which architecture firm in Nevada would be the best to contract stadium, baseball stadium in Las Vegas. So I don't know anything about baseball, about the architecture firms. Let's see what chat says about architecture firms. And we can go check these out if we had time. So these are all ideas that if I'm searching for a particular firm, these are ideas that I would deal with. All right. Interesting. And then it gives me the which ones. So take Canada Lindsay, architects. Excellent. All right. So I've got a list of people that I could collaborate with. So now we're going to do the piece that kind of differentiates this from chat at this particular point so that I can build the images right inside here. So I've got the ideas. I want to build a prototype of the images. I'm going to click hashtag in the word imagine. And what I want it to imagine is a brand new baseball stadium in Las Vegas with a retractable roof inspired by the shell of a desert tortoise, designed in the style of Paul Revere Williams. And which features a desert motif. Let's see what it comes up with. Oh, it didn't generate my image. Let's go see what pops off. Let's do it again. See what happens. Okay. It's just too many variables, I think. So let's see what it pops off with. So, first of all, this is a free tool, which I'm not paying for it. So, not that I can't complain, but I can't really complain. Second of all, it takes a lot of power to be able to sustain everything that we did. And so, let's see what the stadium looks like. Interesting. So, you can kind of see kind of the desert motif there. Very cool. We've got some plants there. It kind of looks a little bit like a tortoise. Let's see if we can improve that. Style, Paul, yeah. Williams, inspired desert tortoise. Let's see if that's too much for it. Nope, generating. So we're good. Let's see what happens. So we can continue to add to our prompt. Super cool. Now, isn't that super cool? So we've got this shell like a desert tortoise, and Paul Revere Williams. We can go back and look at Paul Revere Williams' previous work and see if that's truly a representation of a style that he would use. But that's super cool. And we did that all within like 45, 50 minutes. Or I can take that, now put it in part of a presentation, use all of the things that I built through the chat to build a nice presentation. These are the reasons why we're doing it. Here's our image. There you go. All right. And so that's a tool. Forefront is a very cool tool because everything is built into one product rather than have to go back and forth and figure out how to do things there. All right. In order to prompt it to build images, it's just the hashtag imagine and then describing what you want to do. That's our playground for this week. If you got questions, comments, concerns, issues, or beauty tips, shoot them at me, mike.lang@teachforamerica.org. You can also follow us on social media, ed.Xmachina, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. We will see you next week. God bless America.